Hello, coaches. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Spotlight. Today, we're chatting with Holly Fraser, primary school educational technology coach at the International School of Zug and Lucerne. Holly shares both the rewards and challenges of building a coaching culture, where often she feels like she has to sell the value of EdTech to her teaching colleagues, but once they can see the impact, the motivation and enthusiasm builds. As an early years specialist, Holly understands the challenges of using technology with younger learners, and this Spotlight episode highlights some of the specific strategies that she has used to make those experiences successful for both students and teachers. If you enjoy any part of this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more conversations like this, please subscribe to our channel and click the notifications bell to find out every time we release a new episode. Remember, you can also listen to the full Coach Better episode wherever you get your podcasts. We are passionate about the impact coaching can have on student learning, school culture, and teacher professional growth, and we want to help you coach better. We've got some great opportunities for more learning after today's conversation, so stick around all the way to the end. All right, welcome back to another episode of Coach Better. Today, Clint and I are here with Holly Fraser. Holly, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your education experience?
All right, thanks, Kim and Clint. I'm originally from Canada, where there's lots of snow, and I taught in the primary school, public schools there for several years. I first started teaching French immersion, actually, so had to brush up on my French in order to do that. And then after several years doing that, I moved to the Congo. It was my first overseas stint, and worked at the International School of Kinshasa as a second grade teacher in English. Ironically, I taught in a mainly English-speaking country in French, and then moved to a French-speaking country and taught English. And then after that, I moved to here in Switzerland, where I've been at ISL for the last 7 years. I started off in early years, and then moved into the role of EdTech coach for the last 3 years. So,
You mentioned earlier feeling like a used car salesman and that you're always trying to help teachers see the value of technology in their classroom. How do you do that? What are your strategies for, in your position, helping teachers understand the value of technology for learning and kind of helping them take that risk? What do you do that makes that work in your case?
Well, now that I've been in the role for a few years now, I can have the luxury of sort of pointing out or, using an example of a teacher who, you might want to go talk to this teacher down the hall who gave that a try last year. I think, they got a lot out of that. Their students got a lot out of that. Maybe have a chat. So sometimes another team member's word carries more weight sometimes than mine does, because they know the reality of actually implementing something or the workflow or any hiccups that came up and can better maybe explain to that teacher. But also just trying to, always with a smile on the face, writing on the iPad or a digital piece on the iPad is writing, actually. They're, using all sorts of the same skills that they would just with a paper and pencil, just maybe looks different. And, yes, they're not maybe developing the fine motor skill of holding a pencil, but they're developing other fine motor skills that are also just as relevant and other skills. So, but I guess sometimes, that's one argument I can just think of recently that I definitely got some kickback, and I still don't know if I've convinced this teacher, but it's now kind of become a bit of a humorous back and forth. Anyway, I think she's slowly coming over to the other side. Seeing the iPad is not just a distraction, but
Yeah, so that's a really good point. Like how, especially because you work with early childhood, what are the kinds of questions that you get asked and how do you address those? Like you just talked about fine motor skills, that's one kind of issue. Are there other issues that you feel like you face on a regular basis, and what are your kind of strategies for dealing with them?
I think there's almost like two main kind of pushbacks or challenges that I get. Sometimes it's just, like I said, the teacher not necessarily seeing the value, or even if they do see the value, they still feel this extra need to justify it. We have this great, in a lot of our early years programs, this concept of free flow, where the students can go between different classes and go to different offerings or proposals that different teachers have. They can stay for an hour, they can kind of bop in and out, and they have this every week. And many of the children had chosen to come to this, mainly it was coding, we had robotics and coding apps, and they were just hooked on this one app, that they needed. It got progressively harder. They were just addicted to this challenge. And, you could see the smoke coming out of these kids' ears. They were just focusing so intently, and the teachers were blown away. But at the end of the day, they said, well, I wanted, this kid had been there for an hour, and I thought, oh no, they need to leave. They need to do something else because that's too long on the iPad. And I said, but you probably wouldn't say that had they been, building with Lego. And we're very much a play-based school and, hands-on materials. So she said, you're right. I wouldn't have thought that same thing. But I somehow feel like I need to justify that to say parents, if the child goes home and says, I played on the iPad all afternoon. So it's, even though this teacher knew the thinking that was going on with this child, she still kind of felt, maybe that's too long. And I guess it is finding a balance, but it's also preparing the teachers to be able to defend that choice too, say to other teachers or to parents, and seeing the learning that is happening there. So first of all, making sure I know how to defend that, and then also giving them the building blocks to defend that as well. And another challenge, I guess, is often just the teachers don't have the time to maybe invest in learning, or they say they don't, a tool first, or maybe there's too many, troubleshooting that goes on, and because they don't take the time enough themselves to really explore something first, they're rather hesitant to do it with a whole class of kids. Fair enough. But it's just convincing them to take that time, or to, I don't know, how to ease their time burden so that they do have that time. But again, it comes down to, they're only going to make the time if they see its value. Back to the used car salesman.
I think that idea that, parents and teachers, rightfully so, are concerned about the amount of screen time, but then differentiating the purpose of the screen time with the teachers. And I love your comparison to Lego, or to reading a book, or to, just doing one activity only. If the kids were running outside for an hour, you wouldn't say they're running too much, right? Mm-hmm. If they're reading a book, you wouldn't say they're being antisocial. But if they're using their iPad for an hour, it's too much screen time. They're not moving enough. It's antisocial. And just bringing that up, just as a question or as a comparison, it's really, really important. I think, highlighting the learning that is going on, and the thinking and the perseverance is so powerful. Just to kind of challenge that status quo idea of screens are inherently bad. Some things are inherently bad, and I think creation versus consumption, and there's a lot of comparisons that we can make.
Did you enjoy today's episode? Then you will love the Coach Microcredential program. We know because our current participants are always sharing their feedback with us, and we ask them to share their experiences with you. Each week, we'll be sharing a new voice from inside the cohort of the coach, so you can get a participant's perspective on what will make the program just right for you.
Because the course is structured so that I set my own goals and reflect on my strengths and weaknesses as I engage with the content, I've become much more articulate about guiding the conversation in a way that is comfortable toward more student agency, more authentic connections, more technology-rich learning opportunities that foster deeper learning. And I'm also more able to articulate the added value of what it means to be coached by me.
This is just one of the voices from our current The Coach cohort. Here's what a few others have to say.
I'd really advise anyone interested in taking the coach to take the plunge and go for it.
So I highly recommend it.
So do it.
So
I say go for it. Definitely take the coach. I couldn't recommend it more.
But overall, this course is fantastic because it's made me feel awesome. It's made me feel excited for my future.
If I were to give any piece of advice or message to future cohort members, it is to take the course. If you are on the fence, please take it.
As you can see, this micro-credential is for all educators, not just coaches, because you develop the coaching skills you can use in all aspects of your practice. You don't have to be a coach to have a coaching conversation with a student, a fellow colleague, a school leader, or even a parent. When you're ready to learn more about the coach, click on the link below or reach out to us at Eduro Learning on any of our social media platforms. Registration for our next cohort opens soon. Don't miss it. Expand your professional learning network, dive deep into 26 weeks of curated coaching content, and get your own private mentor for an entire academic year. We can't wait to work with you. Are you ready to take your coaching skills to the next level? Join the next cohort of The Coach and make it happen.